Greetings, listeners. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us for another Reform Party USA podcast featuring a presentation and brief discussion of the Reform Party platform. This episode being Platform Series podcast number 4. And we will focus on 3 platform stances, and those being justice and penal systems, foreign relations, and national security. We are the Reform Party dedicated to electing citizens who want to serve their communities and make accountability, honest leadership, and solutions the cornerstones of their term of service. Tonight's cast here, myself, I am the platform chairman, the platform committee chairman, and a Southeast regional representative. And we also have Rich Walker from New York. He is our national secretary and a platform committee member. We have Sam Gibbons from South Carolina. He is a platform member, of course, and our vice chair of communications. And also with us, Mr. Jim Bacon from Nevada, platform committee member. All right, last episode, we discussed social and cultural issues, healthcare, and public education. And at this time, we will do our due diligence here and take care of some a housekeeping task. And I'll let Sam take that from me now.
Oh, I'm going to take it from you. This is Rich. See Sam shaking his head. He doesn't want it. So yes, point of housekeeping and personal privilege and all this. We're a volunteer organization. I would say entirely, but we do have a couple of folks that are trying to help us with some of the routine tasks, and we just move some modest money to help them keep their lives together. And we enjoy having some people with some different expertise kind of help us along on some of keeping the routine parts of the engine going. So we value, obviously, financial donations. We volunteer. We are a volunteer organization. So people who are willing to devote some of their time, energy, expertise, experience, even in modest ways, it all counts. It's, volunteer time and monetary contributions. That's all contributing to the effort. And that's a lot of what the party platform is about, is the sort of effort we want to put forward as a group. So thank you for that. We're going to go into our first platform plank for tonight, is justice and penal systems. And our first level language, which is basically just a brief summary, and then we'll cover the second level, which is a little bit more detailed. On our position on justice and penal systems. The Reform Party supports refinements and practices that reinforce justice in our law enforcement, judicial process, and penal system. We adhere to the values and principles enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and subsequent amendments that form the foundation of our justice system.
To look at this a bit deeper, the Reform Party supports improvement to law enforcement, court, and incarceration processes. These institutions must be impartial and fair to victims of crime, those accused of a crime, the convicted, and the community.
Law enforcement. Police have the right to be safe while performing their duties and still be required to recognize the rights and dignity of those they serve.
Moving on to legal processes. Plea agreements must be managed responsibly. They should not be used for expediency by either the prosecutor for the people, district attorney, attorney general, etc., or the attorney for the defendant, the public defender. The sentencing process should allow judicial discretion when extenuating circumstances exist to ensure equal justice for all under the law. The Reform Party believes the effectiveness of plea agreements and sentencing guidelines should be monitored for concerns regarding the unequal application of justice.
Incarceration. We need a system that removes dangerous criminals from society and provides opportunities for rehabilitation with the purpose of reducing recidivism. The nation's prisons must not be a place for society to hide those who can be rehabilitated, those with addiction issues, and the mentally ill. Job training should be provided for those incarcerated, and employment placement assistance should be offered once they are released.
In conclusion, the Reform Party believes our justice system needs to meaningfully address effective addiction treatment, long-term mental health services, and rehabilitation programs.
Now, historically speaking, this stance, of course, has been in the Reform Party platform for decades, since the Reform Party was formed. But we wanted to make it more precise and clear as far as what our meaning is for the reforms that we have goals for.
All right. I'll be honest, whenever we were drafting these stances, this was the one that probably concerned me the most because it is a daunting topic.
That's how do you find, it's some of these things, anything in any society, how to describe it in a relatively packaged way. I mean, there are people that, PhD level papers on these topics and probably hundreds of them. So what piece and what portion should the Reform Party focus on? And we are open to input to that in the future, because this isn't something to be engraved in stone and never changed. We want to learn and mature these stances as we go.
As I said, the fact is, this has been a problem topic, a problem child for centuries, basically.
Yeah.
Even our word penitentiary comes from the root idea of doing penance and rehabilitation.
There's instances where it's obvious where there's something that needs to be done differently, and that's what we're going to start first. When you have a percentage of your population incarcerated, the way the United States, statistically does, there should be some things to look at, because we, compared to other nations, have an unusual amount of incarcerated citizens.
I think. Go ahead. We're all ready. I like that.
Last time we talked about the difference between the social and cultural issues and then a lot of our other stances is that we can agree on an ends, right? But then we have to debate the means. Yes. And the social cultural issues lack that. This is not one of those. And what we've really given is a set of ends, right? In dealing with law enforcement. Like, they are core to a nation. And so they have to be able to do their job, but they have to do it the right way, in terms of the legal process, like the people that do this are professionals. They are oftentimes well educated, although, there's a lot of state level issues of what are the requirements to be a judge, right? Like, do you need a law degree in order to be a judge? And how would you staff a municipal court? So there's a lot of justice occurs at a local level. And so it's hard to just, publish a national policy stance on that, right? So we have these value-based stances, right? These end goal-based stances, so that we can facilitate conversation, this digging deeper into, greater specifics. But I would say the biggest one on the national side that I think we're going to hammer on is incarceration. right, is recidivism, is getting populations of people out of prison the right way, right? Not to just immediately return.
That brings up something that I was thinking about: public education or the education system. We all know about the school to prison pipeline that we see in so many places. And it occurs to me that if our schools fail, then it's the incarceration systems that are going to be picking up that slack. And ideally, they could correct that deficiency so that they don't come back.
Yeah, I mean that's an importance of like education, providing opportunity, right, in jail, right? So that people, are not just barred from any sort of meaningful life once they have essentially paid their time. That's kind of the hard question is if we have jail time that is supposed to serve as punishment, once that person is done, have they served their punishment or have they not? Like, why is there so many other social punishments continually placed? But again, that comes to culture. I don't think policy alone is going to fix that. Campaigns to reduce stigma, maybe.
Right.
My mind goes back to the last sentence of the level 2 stance, where we point out 3 areas for the Reform Party to focus on: effective addiction treatment, long-term mental health services, and rehabilitation programs. And we need to dig into each of those to some extent, and maybe we should select one of them to dig in deeply and do some messaging on, maybe have some public conversations on. Mental health with the pandemic years and this sort of thing became a more significant topic, although it's been growing for decades. And in recent years, much more, because now it's not just older folks facing changes later in life, but now it's younger folks that are struggling through having less social contact and basically not having as much structure to their lives, and it can be unsettling for some.
On that note, I'd like to offer a thought and then suggest we move on. But during the pandemic years, we're now seeing many schools, districts, and entire states, greatly relaxing their graduation requirements or requirements for homework, anything, because children did not have the normal interaction that they would have had in in-person education. And I'm concerned that because of these changes, we're going to see a greater number of people winding up in jail because they did not receive the education that they should have.
Well, that's something I would open debate on, because my understanding is a lot of this is proposed change. The change is not actually really happening much yet.
It is in place. Entire states like Washington and Oregon for starters.
Okay. So that would need to be researched so that we could speak about it with references and this sort of thing. But I'm good with transitioning on. And I keep watching the stories in New York, so I can't speak for the other states. Haven't had time to dig that far.
Oh, no.
I would make the call for, if anyone listening is in corrections or has knowledge on this, attorneys, the defense attorneys, or attorney generals, whatever, prosecutors, judicials, please get in touch with us. We need your input to write the formal policy position, our white paper on this.
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and we can roll on. Our next one up is going to be foreign relations. So, foreign relations. The Reform Party respects the sovereignty of all nations. The United States is responsible for adhering to all treaties and formal obligations it negotiates. The Reform Party is critical of treaties and policies that do not promote mutual benefit.
Transitioning into the second level language, foreign relations. Okay. The duty of the United States government is to its people and its foreign policy. I'm sorry, I want to get this right. The duty of the United States government is to its people and its foreign policy is the medium between its citizenry. We have a grammatical thing there.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world. So foreign relations, medium between its citizenry and the rest of the world. Okay. The political and economic policies within this framework must not undermine the well-being of our nation. The Reform Party believes the United States foreign relations must navigate the complex interactions between principles, including these three.
First, sovereignty of nations. Borders between nations should only change when no party is under duress and all parties agree. Borders within nations are the responsibility of each nation's citizens. When a nation poses a danger to the United States' national security, we may respond diplomatically and economically. When a clear and present threat exists, military options must be considered.
All right, national interest. The United States has a long-term interest in supporting nations that respect the dignity and rights of their citizens. When invited by the duly elected government of another country, the United States may assist in building and maintaining freedom and prosperity. Building beneficial relationships with all countries improves national security and economic stability. The Reform Party believes the United States should invest in maintaining a healthy and helpful reputation.
All right. Next is then fiscal responsibility. The United States benefits from the peace and stability of all nations. Facilitating this incurs a cost that should not be the sole responsibility of our taxpayers. Efforts to assist other countries in achieving and maintaining stability require the cooperation of all interested parties. Reform Party supports innovations, including carefully constructed regulations and agreements that allow charities and other non-government organizations, also known as NGOs, to address deficiencies in basic human needs in any country that requires aid. The Reform Party supports goodwill efforts using government assets to respond to disasters in other countries. We recognize the occasional need to spend United States funds on infrastructure and potentially imbalanced trade agreements to benefit the citizens of another country in the short term, while returning benefits to the United States in the long term. These efforts and agreements must provide for the responsible termination of these efforts. Did that read right? These efforts, I want to get this right. These efforts and agreements must provide for a responsible termination of these efforts.
As good stewards of the public trust, the Reform Party supports devoting assets where they are effective. The Reform Party advocates for an approach that prioritizes our citizens while recognizing that the well-being of other nations is to the benefit of our nation. And we'll transition to a little bit of the background on this topic. I suspect it's been on our platform for a long time.
Yeah, we have it titled the same. It is okay. Foreign policy is what has been historically mentioned as. We're calling it foreign relations, as it kind of expands the topic to include a lot more things properly. Once again, this is one of those things where we've had some vagueness in the past, and we wanted to look closely, and we spent a lot of time on this, at the language that we used, and make sure it was clear and precise as to what we were actually trying to facilitate here. and choose some relanguaging to make sure it's clear as to where we're going here for our third level of white paper policymaking.
Yeah, I remember this one taking a while.
All right.
If I look at the bullets inside here, the sovereignty of nations, I know we've had some debate. As a party, we advocate for self-governance in every country, and we respect the borders and the sovereignty of each nation. That gets a little muddy when the nation itself is not self-governed or interfered with or in the middle of regional conflicts and this sort of thing. So part of it in our platform is the way we want it to be, not the way it is. So it's, we're going to work in this direction. And some places are well down this road, and other places we're not quite sure how we're going to get them down that road. I mean, generally it's up to them, but we have an interest because we're involved, they're involved, the economies overlap, the trade routes overlap. If there's trouble in certain parts of the world, we can't move our goods economically. There's no way to say that we don't have an interest on it, fortunately or not. I don't know. That's hard.
Yeah, I mean,
I
remember the Somali pirates, right? Or the hijacking that occurred in Yemen. I mean, if there is chaos in a part of the world, it is going to be disruptive to world order,
Yeah, I mean, we value good economics, and for ourselves, we value that highly. It's we have a fair share of capitalism, and we like it to work well. And you get disruptions to things like tankers, and then the markets that operate and those commodities are disrupted, and then you end up with lots of ripple effect, inflation, deflation, shortage, and we want stability.
Yeah, who's going to pay the prices? It's going to be the consumer in the end, so it's going to be the people that are going to wind up paying. So
yes,
I'm going to point out, or I feel that I need to point out, that's not all about the money.
No.
Once again,
very good.
Stability is part of this. When there's a bad actor getting in the middle between two friends, trying to upset it, that's not good. I mean, it translates into domestic peace, also translates into other foreign relations. It's much more than just the money.
We're talking about more than economic stability. We're talking about some of the other things that we've mentioned, peace and stability of cultures.
Well, yeah. Well, you could get one of the biggest changes that we want to see with American foreign policy is a change of, I guess, our historical treatment of kind of smaller nations.
Yes.
Right, where we have been the source of several overthrows, right? Whenever those places got in the way of business interest, and so the will of the people, was cast to the side for the sake of business interest. That's not stability. In fact, that is really coming back to haunt us in a number of ways, and so. If the United States is going to remain the world hegemon, right, the top nation in the world, we need to do so in a way that is not going to just invite ill upon us. Like you're always going to get people that are in competition, but you don't want to give that person that's in competition any sort of willing friends to join them, because you're a bully on the international stage. And I think that's kind of a big part there, right? Like, how do we be a good neighbor?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That was something I wanted to say. It's like we can all acknowledge that there have been some mistakes in the past in U.S. foreign policy and foreign relations, and we can learn from our mistakes. And the imperialistic types of behavior, is really something that we need to be aware of and to reduce and to eliminate, because the rest of the world doesn't want a United States like that.
Well, one of the big challenges there is the difference between intention and perception.
Yes.
Our intention is generally, at least I like to think of it this way, as helping the other location achieve stability.
Sure.
But if you're going to achieve stability, you have to pretty much start with security. And that usually includes Americans and potentially with weapons guarding places. And that looks more like an occupation than helping with stability. It's
Verification.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Well,
And you don't want to do it small footprint because that's, you're kind of asking for trouble versus a bad perception if you have, too many people there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the current reality is, you have either Chinese companies providing security for Chinese assets through their Belt and Road Initiative, or you have, Wagner forces that are, engaged in the Sahel region of Africa. When there is a power vacuum, actors are going to seek to fill it. And generally they're not going to care about the local population. I think that, and that's a hard thing to manage. And it requires a highly professional military to actually manage that and not just, create problems that will last decades to come.
I get the feeling we're going to have a pretty easy time transitioning to our last topic here.
Well, yeah.
Something I feel compelled to point out is we do notice and we want continuity between our platform planks. And something in our discussion here has come out is the influence of lobbyists and lobbying organizations and money in politics and things that make, should I say, it can change the perception of foreign policy from something honorable to suspicious. And that's something we want to minimize, that chance of distortion.
Yeah. That's not where I thought you were going with that. Where I thought you were going is, I kind of wanted to backtrack and mention that one of the reasons that we paired, penal and prison reform in all this is because of its impact to, national security and stability as well.
Sure.
That was my continuity that I was like, I kind of forgot that. But yeah, I think, Jim, if you're ready to take us away, I'm ready for some national security talk.
Certainly. The last plank in our platform, but by no means the least important, possibly the most important, national security. National security is the primary responsibility of our federal government. We must preserve our peace, economy, and sovereignty to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, as stated in the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. The Reform Party considers national security in all party policy stances. Our policies promote the security of our national borders, the safety of our citizens from foreign and domestic threats, and the stability of America's economic interests.
Getting into the second level language of national security. The Reform Party believes that the United States national security policy must establish prosperity, stability, and security for our society. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution grants Congress the power to fulfill and maintain this primary responsibility. We believe all the enumerated congressional powers affect national security?
So, prosperity arises from sound economic policies that include infrastructure, trade and commerce, labor, immigration, monetary policies, and access to rewards for and protection of individual effort and improvement. Stability requires effective governance, such as a balanced budget and monetary policy, the maintenance and improvement of infrastructure, and citizens who are confident in their future. Security is established by border integrity, a capable military, effective justice systems, and positive international relations. It also involves protecting intellectual property, communication and infrastructure networks, and identifying other vulnerabilities.
The Reform Party promotes effective institutions and civic responsibility as the foundation of our national security, because prosperity, stability, and security are codependent elements and require constant monitoring to support our nation's health. Our government has been described as of the people, by the people, for the people, that shall not perish from the earth, from the Gettysburg Address. Therefore, it is each citizen's responsibility to ensure the continued existence of our nation.
So, Rick, with national security, has this stance just developed a bit over time, or I'm assuming this is another one that has been on the platform for a long time?
Is something that's had its own heading, of course, as a stance. It just wasn't complete. And once again, this is why we've gone through a whole process of relanguaging some things. It didn't give a complete outlook as far as the how. Well, not really the how, but I guess the broad aspects of it, because it's a huge thing. Because almost every one of our platform stances has some sort of national security aspect to it. So it all kind of funnels down into this final most important thing of national security. And national security can mean a lot to different people, but it is
That was the problem.
to put it into an all-encompassing thing. We had to spread this out a little bit and get some better language to it, and that's what we have done.
I mean, going back to national security means different things to different people. I mean, Jim, you and I went back and forth on this over the course of days. What we finally did is you and I came up with, or, with everybody suffering along with us, came up with a Reform Party definition of what national security was. That was the only way to deal with it.
Right. And I think it was Rich. Yeah, Rich mentioned earlier having a cohesive platform.
Yes.
It came out that national security has to be a consideration in every policy that we have, every stance we take. We've got to consider how does that affect our national security or our identity as a nation.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much every policy that the government implements should at least not affect national security. Ideally, it will improve the national security stance, but at worst, it should not decrease our national security. And so that's why we came up with prosperity, stability, and security, and we were able to fit a lot within that context.
Something I think about: protection of national assets. And an asset includes an intangible asset like reputation.
Yeah.
And that's something, as I learn more and more about our diplomats and State Department, I value their work. The more I learn, the more I value it for the sake of preserving and promoting reputation.
All right. And we want to note that within this stance, I think we've all kind of recognized that eventually in the future, there might be some things that evolve from this as far as having their own platform stance. Since this is so, this is such a busy topic here. There's
Don't be shy. Say it. Say it.
Oh, you want me to say it? Okay.
Say it. Don't be shy.
Security is one of them. But to split some of this up and maybe get more detailed in second level language before getting to third level policy making, it could be something in the future. So if people have an interest in these things and want to get some input, let's get involved. Maybe we should talk about our Discord and how they can get a hold of us through the website, so they can also give their views on where we go with some of this policy.
One of the things earlier when I was talking about volunteering, I need to chime in at some point here. At the very top of our homepage on our website, there's a link that says get involved and one that says contribute. And to get involved is in many ways more important to get the conversation started. And we need just a minimum of your email address so that we can at least have some way to reach you and you can reach us. And also, we always like to know what state you're in, because many of the things that we do in the Reform Party have to take into account state-specific needs and organizations.
All right. Rich, next week is the fourth Tuesday in November, correct?
Yeah, but this podcast will stand the test of time.
Yeah,
yes.
But with that in mind, we do have monthly. We have open meetings, open discussions the fourth Tuesday of every month.
Yes, on Zoom, and if you get in our database, you're going to get email. Yep. Just an announcement and then a reminder on the day of, and all are welcome.
So, taking us on out, next episode, we're going to be dealing with economy and the job market, energy and the environment, and tax policy. We're going after your hard-earned money. So, where you can find us is on the reformparty.org. And get there and, link up with us on our socials, get in our database so that we can occasionally send you some emails and get some feedback from you. Till next time.